Okay, so we'll just get started, and thank you so much, Emma, for coming along to the Candid Conversations today. Emma McCartney, you replied to my email and said that you would like to share your story about having an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful that you would like to share that with us. So if you would like to start and just tell me a little bit about what has been going on for you over the last few years of your life where you've been living with an eating disorder.
No problem. Well, I had an eating disorder for 5 to 6 years. It started when I was in junior high school, and it started off as disordered eating at first, and then nobody kind of knew what was happening, and I got took to the doctors and was kind of told that I had an eating disorder, and I was put into support services, and my life kind of went on, and I didn't really want to recover, and I didn't want to get better because I didn't understand what was happening. And it took about 2-3 years for me to kind of have a light bulb moment that something was going wrong. And then during over my time in recovery, I had a lot of ups and downs, and I had times where I nearly recovered, then something happened and I fell back into a pitfall. And then I got taken out of school, and I was told that I mightn't be able to come to university, and that's something that I really didn't want to happen because I've always been very academically driven. And I loved the routine that school had, and it kind of made me get up when I was sick and go into school and see people and force myself out of the house. So them telling me that I was going to be taken out of school and that the thought of university mightn't happen because I wasn't able to support myself and do what my body needed me to do for it to do things that it wanted to do, was really scary. So I kind of had to put my all and decide what I wanted for my life, and if I wanted to come to university and if I wanted to have the prospects that I could have from it. So I kind of just jumped in. I was like, I have to do this for myself. I had to do it for my family because everyone was going, it just wasn't good. And it took a lot from everyone. So I just kind of dived into it, and I never really looked back. I obviously had moments where I was like, this is weird. I'm not used to recovering and doing all these things and going out and seeing people and actually wanting to go out for dinner or asking my friends to come with me and get lunch or something like that. And things were a bit weird for a while, but once I got used to it, I realised that it was really normal. And then there was never really a moment that I just discovered that I was recovered. If there was no like party, like it was like, you've done it. It's just kind of like you just wake up one morning and you're like, I want to go out for lunch, I want to go out for dinner, and you're like, I have no problem doing that or anymore. Like, so it was just a bit, it's progressive, it just flows, and it's one thing, like recovery isn't linear, you have ups and downs, and I still have bad days. Things go wrong in your life, like relationships going wrong or something like that, and they can trigger a kind of restrictive response if that's something that you're used to falling back into. Especially for me, when it's an aspect of control over your life that you have, and that's why I was so stuck in restriction for a while, because I felt like everything was just spiralling. Like I was being taken out of school, my time with the eating disorder, it was COVID, I couldn't go out with my friends, I couldn't see anybody, and this was one part of my life that I could keep to myself and that I had control over. So when something goes wrong, it's hard not to fall back into, I can't control that situation, but I can control this. So it's kind of realising that you're a bit bigger than it, and there's so many other ways to get over something.
Thank you very much. You said there that after a few years you went into support services.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a wee bit about what support that you did access?
Yeah, so I went to CAMS, and obviously I was 14 at the time when I first went in, 13, 14. So I was my mum's responsibility still, and she put me in to get professional help, and I really, really needed it. For a while I was still really young, so I didn't kind of know what they were saying to me, or I didn't understand it because I was still growing up. And it took me a few years to kind of fully immerse myself and realise that an eating disorder isn't just a physical illness, it's a mental illness. So for me to realise that and be like, I do have a problem, I need help, was a lot. So for a few years I wasn't really getting what I needed out of it. But once I realised that I needed help, I really started taking advantage of the services, and there was therapists and dietitians, and you had a person that you always went to if you needed help, or kind of like in charge of you, like a consultant. And I'm still really good friends with my consultant, and I talk to her all the time. So it's just kind of making sure that you have a support system and having the services there that can offer you professional help that other people can't really. Like my mum and all were great, but they couldn't offer me the mental health side of it as much as they tried. They didn't understand it fully themselves, so they couldn't give me that support. So it was great to have somewhere that I could go and just vent about things that were happening and that I didn't understand why I felt that way, but they could decipher it to me and kind of explain it. So I went to CAPS.
Very good. And do you still have, you said that you're still really good friends with your consultant.
Yeah.
Do you still have support from counselling and things like that?
At the minute, no.
Okay.
I don't go to anyone now. I'm just kind of out on my own doing my thing. But if I need help, I know that I can phone her. And she's just amazing, to be honest. Like if I have any problems, I can phone her.
That's good. It's very good to have that support.
Yeah.
And then talk to me a little bit about your family then. So you've mentioned your mum.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned that your family were great and they were really trying to help you. What impact do you think having, disordered eating has had on you and your family, and has that changed any since you've been in recovery?
Yeah, so when I wasn't well, it did put a lot of kind of tension on family life because I just wasn't myself for a good 4 or 5 years. And it made things like dinner times and things that are meant to be a family coming together really hard. But it's changed so much since I've gotten better. And like I'll sit down and I'll sit and chat at dinner, whereas I wouldn't have. I would have just kind of zoned out and been on my own. And things like my brother, he got me into the gym and things like that, and that was his way of reaching out and helping me because he's 3 years older than me. And he didn't understand either, but he's helped me in his own way, and he's got me into the gym and he's helped me there, and he's helped me with like my nutrition and things, just making sure that I'm keeping track and that I'm good. And my mummy, she's just the best, honestly. Anytime I need her, I phone her and she'll just talk me down with whatever's going on, and she's just a great help. But when I wasn't well, my family life was hard, and I think that's something that people don't really talk about. Like it puts a lot of strain not just on you, but everybody's worried about you. Nobody knows what's happening. And when I was really, really sick, they were thankfully with COVID, they didn't put me into hospital, but they would. And that kind of was really, really hard for everyone to deal with because nobody can understand why I just wouldn't get better, or why I couldn't just push myself that wee bit further to do it, and I kept spiraling. But thankfully now it's all okay, and I think me coming to uni and getting my independence and my mum saying that I'm okay on my own now has really helped, and it's really made our relationship a lot better, and we're kind of joined at the hip now anyway, so it's good.
It's good. And so you said that during COVID, that was when things were kind of at the worst for you, and you weren't able to go into hospital because of COVID, so you stayed at home.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were glad happened, or?
Really, really glad. I kind of had, my mum described it as hospital at home. I was on bed rest for a while and I couldn't go really anywhere, so that's what I did. But I'm so glad that I wasn't put into hospital because I would have put my hands up.
Yeah.
I just know for some people it would work, but I just know for me it wouldn't have worked. And I think my mum's glad of it too.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have an amazing relationship, which is fantastic, and she's such a good support. Your whole family sound amazing. So something that you said earlier was that there's no party. You just don't go, I'm recovered now.
Yeah.
But you did have a bit of a light bulb moment, and that was when someone said to you, if this keeps going on, you're not going to be able to go to university.
Yeah.
And so hearing that from someone really did, you said it scared you because that's not what you wanted in life. So what did you then do to kind of get yourself to go, right, this is what I need to go to university? So what did you do to help yourself then?
So when that kind of happened, I was 17, I think, thinking back. It's not that long ago, but I think I was about 17, and I did my UCAS, and I'd always wanted to be a teacher. I'd always wanted to come to Strand and do teaching, and that was the plan that I had for myself. And being told that it just simply wouldn't happen. I wouldn't be allowed to go was kind of like, whoa, I didn't think anybody had that power over me. I thought I can make my decisions, and quite a stubborn person when I put my mind to something, and I was like, I am going to university. So it was me being a bit in denial and being like, I am going, even when I wasn't going. And it took just sitting there and realising that somebody could just pull the cord on it. And they're not doing it from a bad place to be malicious, they're doing it from a loving place. They just want to help you and see you get better. And I hadn't proved to anybody that I was going to be okay on my own, like not being with my mum and living away from her. It was kind of a trust thing, which is another thing. It takes a lot of trust away from your family and your friends, because it's not you being deceitful, but your eating disorder is being deceitful to somebody. So it was a trust thing, and me sitting there realising that my whole life was going to go the way I planned at 17 was really scary. So I worked a lot on myself, and it was kind of, I worked a lot on the psychological side first, and started realising why I felt that way and how certain things would impact another. And then once I kind of got that figured out a wee bit, I then started just doing the actual like eating and the refeeding process, and it was very scary at the start, because all the things that come with recovery they're scary. You don't know, like your body hasn't done a lot of things in a while, and even like being warm again. I was always cold, and being warm again, it was a bit like, oh, getting used to that, and do I like that? Is that okay? And once I'd started working on myself and getting my mental health back to a good place and getting my body caught up, it was like, okay, she can do this. She's turned this around in 6 months. She's put her mind to it, so we know that you can do it and that you can recover. So it was building the trust back up and seeing if I could stay that way. It was, if I had a bit of a deal going, if I could stay that way for about a year, I'd be allowed to go to university, and I'd be allowed to live on my own. With, obviously, if I needed someone, I would call them and road race down the road. But it was, if I could stay recovered and prove to everybody that I was okay, being out on my own, then I'd be allowed to go.
And you're here.
And I'm here.
Yeah. And you're very glad to be here.
I'm very glad to be here.
And it sounds like what you said there is, you can't just go and go, I'm going to recover from this.
Yeah.
You have to do it in steps. So psychological first, and then it's learning about the eating and warmth and things like that again. So it's a process.
Yeah.
If there was somebody who's watching this now, and they are going through what you were going through, what would you say to them? Would you give them any advice, or what would you say to them to do if they just don't know what to do or where to get the help that they need?
From my family dynamic, my first port of call was always to talk to my mum, and I know that's probably not possible for everybody, but it would be to talk to anybody. Letting someone know that you're not okay is really important, because I was very good at hiding it, even around my friends and things when I was in school. Everybody could see that I wasn't okay, but I just said I was fine, and I never slowed down or stopped doing anything, because I knew that would cause me to stop. So it would be just reaching out to someone and telling someone how you feel and letting them know what's happening behind the scenes. It's so easy to hide things, and you get that down to a fine art when you're not well and you've got an eating disorder. But it would just be to talk to someone and let them know. I know me and my mum kind of sat through my daily routine, and I was really honest with her and just talked about what I did and how I kind of avoided meal times and things like that, so that she would know to come and check on me and to sit with me at breakfast, lunch and dinner and make sure that I was okay. And it was hard, but I needed her there to kind of get me out of it. So it would be to talk to someone, anyone, your best friend, anyone. Just, it was my mum for me.
Okay. Very good, and it's great that you have that as well. You said also that there are times when you would slip a little bit. What mechanisms or tools do you have in place now that if you're having a day when you can feel yourself slipping back a little, that you go, oh, I need to do this, this and this to help me not go back?
So a lot of the time if I do notice myself getting a bit complacent in my recovery, it's a time that I've spent on my own. And I'm a very independent person. I've always been brought up that way and I have been. But if I spent a full day on my own, say I'm sitting in the library or something and I've been just doing my uni work and I've noticed, oh, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't had my lunch, like your brain can just go to the place, oh, it's fine, just wait till dinner. But it's getting yourself up, and I'll always phone someone and be like, have you had your lunch yet?
Mm-hmm.
And even if my best friends are so good, they're like, yes, but we'll go in with you and we'll get your lunch. So if you just I find myself getting complacent sometimes, it's calling someone, holding myself accountable, realising that it's so easy to fall back into bad habits and patterns, and just remembering that I don't want the way I felt back again. So I would call someone, I would think about how I feel in that moment, I would go and do something about it then actively, and that's just how I kind of deal with it now. If I recognise myself slipping, it's waking up, say if I've had a bad day and I've thought about it before I go to bed, it's waking up the next day and realising, right, it's a new slate, you can do anything with this day, you just have to get up, get your breakfast, and then go about it, and just holding myself to a strict routine of you do X, Y, Z at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting it slip.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're so good at that, that you go, okay, here's my routine. And, even over the Christmas period, that can be really difficult because we all fall out of our wee routines. Like if we're used to getting up at 9, we maybe not get up till 12.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging because then you've missed breakfast and
Yeah.
what to do. So it's great that you have that routine in place for yourself. And, something you said at the start was that it's a control thing. Like there were things going wrong in your life that you couldn't control, and the eating was something you could control. And for you to turn that around and take that back, to go, okay, someone's taken away my future of going to university, I'm taking that back, that's control I want back now.
Yeah.
And you've done that, you've come here, and you've taken back the control of, I'll plan my day,
Yeah.
I'll eat my meals, I'll make sure, I'm not eating, I'll phone someone.
Yeah.
So you've got, you've really turned it around, and it's amazing, and it's fantastic that you're here and that you're going to be a secondary school
Yeah.
teacher. Yeah. And what made you want to be a secondary school teacher?
Well, obviously a lot of this happened when I was in secondary school.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of be able to notice signs in education. If I'd had someone notice a wee bit earlier, maybe something would have happened or I would have got help a bit earlier. I know that's not always possible because it's not happening in the school and everything's just crazy, but I always wanted to kind of, thought that's where I'd be best useful, and that I could utilise my skills and kind of be more than a teacher in a secondary school setting. And that's where I think people would kind of show if something was wrong, and that's where I could help.
Yeah, because you spend most of your time at school, don't you?
Yeah.
You're there from 8:30, 9 in the morning, you're there till 3 or whatever in the afternoon. So for you, it's not just about going in there with the education of the teaching, but for you, it's going in there with almost like the psychological side of things and being there for students as well. And I would just like to say thank you, because it's not easy to come into a room and talk about this. As you said, having an eating disorder is something that you can hide.
Yeah.
You learn how to hide it, and anyone who is going through that at the moment, they could be hiding it.
Yeah.
So for you to come in here and be so brave to have this conversation, as you said to me, you would love to do this because if there's anyone out there who's experiencing this, if you could help them, that's something you want to do. And I think that's just amazing. So what I would like to leave it on is a positive as well, and I would like you to tell me one thing about your life that is really good now since recovering from your eating disorder.
Well, I would say just being here and being out on my own and getting my independence back and not kind of having to answer to everybody for everything. I just love being able to live with my friends and do whatever I want and come to university and do things like that. But getting better has given me so much freedom, and that's one thing that I thought I would never have. I never thought that I would be able to sustain it for a long time. I always thought there was just something wrong with me, that I couldn't stay better. But proving to myself that I can and that I have and that I will keep doing it is just something that I'm really proud of myself for. So it's given me a lot of kind of self-respect as well. If I put my mind to something, I can do it. And there was a lot of negatives, but coming around at the other side, you kind of see that it's made you a bigger person and that you've got a lot more knowledge of a lot of things and a lot more self-understanding.
Yeah. And hopefully if there is anyone watching this who does need the help, that they know that they can access that. For you, that was your mom and Cam's.
Yeah.
And you know, something I would just like to highlight before we finish is that if there is anybody at Stranraer or yourself who are ever struggling with an eating disorder or any other mental health issue at all, that there is support here for you. You know, you can contact myself, I'm on the top floor of Strand House, or there's also Patricia Smith. And we also have a free counselling service here, so if that is something that you ever want to access, you know, you can come to myself or Patricia and we can give you the details for that as well. So you're never alone, which you would find. Your mum's always at the end of the phone and we are always here for you too, and that is the same with all of our students here at Stranraer. So thank you very much, Emma. Thank you.
That was so great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Like, that's the second time I've talked to you about this, but I could sit here for hours. Honestly.